And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I almost screwed it up there. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is a newcomer to the Valley, the master of the Fistiverse, the man who probably has Get Fisted by Skullfist playing in the background at some point, and a man who's no stranger to the monastery itself, even though this is the first time that we've worked directly one-to-one on a project. Good brother Joel.
That's me, baby.
So it is since Soar Shirtless on a Rooftop finished last week, which had some interesting ideas, but needs a bit more time in the oven. It's a bit as Gordon Ramsay would say, fucking raw. We are back in the one-shot side of things, as is tradition, doing a one-shot as an in-betweener before full seasons. At the end of the show, I will reveal what the next full season for the Friday slot is going to be. But we have two entries here. Both of them are currently crowdfunding. The first one is Temeraire, which is being brought to us by Magpie Games. I know I said some shit about Magpie Games during the rundown of Avatar Legends, but aside from that, they are a very good studio. Mostly doing Powered by the Apocalypse, but this is not that. It is based on the book series of the same name. Obviously, we're not going to be looking into the books to the same level because you shouldn't have to. I would just say it is Pike and Shot meets with dragons. If that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will.
Yeah, it's a good premise. He said with cornbread in his larynx.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going into this semi-blind because the main thing that I know, and the main reason I decided to bring it here, is instead of using Powered by the Apocalypse, which they've used for as long as I've known Magpie Games.
Ad nauseum, you might say.
They are instead using a brand new in-house system called the Adana system.
Yeah, which makes it immediately more interesting to me, because I've seen a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse, but I've not seen this. Mm-hmm. I like new stuff.
Yeah. So, in the first section, Dragons at War, they go into what Temeraire is. Saying Temeraire is a 9-volume series of alternate history fantasy novels by Naomi Novik, taking place during an alternative history of the Napoleonic Wars. The series of conflicts led by European coalitions against the First French Empire under the leadership of Napoleon Bonaparte. Though rooted in real-world history, Temeraire diverges due to the presence of dragons. Often the events you might find a history book occur similarly, but the existence of dragons reshapes other events completely. The novels follow the British aerial captain William Lawrence and his dragon Temeraire as they undertake missions to fulfill their duty to their country, fight in dangerous battles against French forces, and ultimately reshape history for both humans and dragons alike. And of course, if you want to start with the books, the first one is His Majesty's Dragon, and because of it doing a British approach, there's a small part of me that is imagining Sharp as a dragon commander. If you've seen clips of the old Sharp British TV series, which had Sean Bean in the main role, and Sean Bean actually didn't die during the series.
Man, yeah. I mean, for me, the cultural touch point is Monty Python and the Flying Dragons, um, which, man, I don't know if I'd be able to resist
Yeah.
doing a Monty Python bits with this. And
There is a
that's
Monty
really not
Python.
fair to
There
the
is a
setting,
Monty
but
Python RPG, but that is something that may get covered another day. Uh,
I'm looking forward to that one. But
although
yeah,
it
I mean,
is,
just like first impressions on this one, it does look pretty good.
yep.
Like I was initially kind of bouncing off of it when we were talking about it before the stream, but the more I kind of skimmed through it and started actually reading it, the more I'm like, there might actually be something here.
But Dra- they do a further aside about how dragons are a living, breathing part of the world and have been part of the world for as long as history can recall. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's probably better than suddenly introducing them, like
mhm,
making them like, oh no, this was always this way.
yeah.
It's a little Harry Turtle Devy, but in a way that I kind of like.
Mhm. Some dragons are human sized, while some dragons are as long as a full frigate.
Very
Um,
large.
a small one can maybe carry a couple people. Large dragons can carry whole crews of 20. Um, some are poets and scholars. Some are belligerent warriors. Those who have some sort of bond to humans are loyal to their chosen companions. And of course, a dragon is going to be a force to be reckoned with in conflicts. Uh, in Britain, a hatched dragon is encouraged to form a bond with the one who harnesses it. The bonded human becomes a captain in the British Aerial Corps. The dragon often takes a crew appropriate to its size, composed of soldiers and officers, much like the crew of a naval ship. In China, dragons are bred based on intellect and treated as equals in their society, allowing them time to mature before choosing a companion. And then we have a few bullet points of what you need to know, and I'm just going to read off the bold parts. Dragons are varied and complex. Um, Great Britain leads multiple coalitions against France. The British Aerial Corps operates as an isolated branch of the military. Every culture has a different relationship with dragons. Uh,
Although I feel like they give you the three you could possibly have,
hmm,
going from like, dragons are equals to dragons are basically like slaves to kind of a blend. It's like,
mhm,
well, those seem to be the three ways we could interact with them. So those three cultures have different relationships with dragons in those particular ways.
yeah,
It feels like an exhaustive list.
but
Still,
then,
I do like, and I want to point out, like, I like the idea that the different cultures do have different relationships because that's a lot of role playing opportunity there, right? Like, they really did choose a property that has a real rich potential for role play. So I love
mhm,
that.
yep, but then it goes into the history of this version of the Napoleonic Wars, uh, and it seems that the starting point year wise is probably is 1805, 1804, 1805. Um, so Napoleon has just been crowned king of Italy, um, and the war of the third coalition is just starting to kick off. Uh, and of course, so that and while some of the events leading up to that point are similar to what you may have read in the history books, it since the mission that's also in this quick start it takes place in 1800, I think it's safe to say that this is gonna be one of those where it's not locked to one particular year or one particular
Yeah,
cutoff point on the timeline.
I imagine the books cover all of this. So I would imagine that if it's going to be like a series that they're going to go on with, that they're going to give you a lot for all of these different periods.
Hmm.
Um, I would hope, like, if I were a fan of the series, I would hope for enough in the core book that I could like run each one of these as its own kind of setting. Because these are, like, historically speaking, very different times during the reign of Napoleon. So each one of them, like, they're going to have very different considerations. The war is going to be going very differently. Um, so yeah, I'd want a lot for these as far as like
Hmm.
developing content for them.
Oh yeah, and
Oh, and they actually link them. Yeah, the Battle of Dover is in His Majesty's Dragon, so that's great. Yeah, if you're a fan of the books and you want to run a role playing game, this seems like it's really doing a good job of bringing you there.
yeah. Oh, there's a nice detailed wiki, and just looking at
Ooh, lovely.
Temeraire, his particular history goes from 1805 to 1813, so that's plenty
Okay.
of different years that can be covered. Especially since when you're dealing with open warfare, a lot of events can happen just in the span of a month, let alone a year.
Oh yeah, no, and the Napoleonic Wars were no exception.
Hmm.
You add dragons to that, you're gonna have a very different world.
Oh yeah.
And also, I feel like if you start this game at the beginning of the Napoleonic Wars, you're going to have a very different kind of setting emerge from that, just naturally because the players are so important, and their role in the war is so important, than you would have if you started a little later on in the book series. And I'd like to have, as a GM, the option to start it wherever the hell I wanted. So,
Yeah. Um, as far as I know that it was said how long that some of them can be the length of a frigate.
hmm.
I was trying to see if I could nail down what that kind of length would be, but the problem is, there's not really a size standard when it comes to ships even back then.
Well, what about a Napoleonic era frigate? Let me look.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure they had something in mind.
mhm.
Those
Oh,
British frigates, the Lita class, maybe that gives us a nice standard.
mhm.
Because they should be kind of categorically close to each other, unless. I mean, I guess it's not impossible that there's massive differences, but let me look here. Yeah, so Lita class is 1805 to 1832, so that feels like that's of the era.
Mhm.
Uh,
But in terms of how
yeah,
many feet long, it varies.
100, yeah, 150, 125. I still feel like that's pretty close. 150 feet.
Mhm.
Damn,
Yeah,
39-foot
I
beam.
could
These things are big.
I could see
These are
that.
chunky boys.
Yeah. Well, the frigate was the
Oh,
was meant to be the big yardstick.
God,
Uh,
look at all the rigging on these things. Oh my God. I always forget how much bloody rigging this era of ship had.
mhm.
Like, you don't think about it, and there's so many ropes. Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh, that is so complicated.
So imagine a dragon of that length.
That's a big boy. That's a
Mhm.
very big dragon. I
But
guess, I don't know. I guess it depends on what your scale is, because if you're talking about, like, Dungeons and Dragons, those can get ridiculous.
mhm. But
Is that my phone? Shut up.
then let's talk of common locations. First being coverts, which is where aviators train. Um, the so coverts are going to be your forward operating bases, I suppose.
Yeah, looks like that's what
Also,
they're for.
um, breeding grounds, which is where more wild dragons are going to be found, or ones that are either feral, retired, captured, or just are not interested in fighting. Uh,
Yeah, it looks like they kind of have a feral, like, strength-based society within there.
mhm. And um,
Look at that. It says that they're not permitted to leave. Who the hell's gonna stop them? I
uh,
feel like having them form their own society of intelligent dragons seems like a real bad idea.
other dragons.
Yeah, it's got to be other dragons, right? So now I kind of want to read the series because that feels like a question I want to see some answers to,
Mhm.
and not because it's stupid on purpose, but because I feel like there could be some interesting answers.
Yep.
Man, this is really cool. Yeah, this one's winning me over. Again, I really wanted to bounce off of this. It felt like so much more than I wanted. But now that I'm in here, it's like eating a delicious cheesecake, one savory bite at a time.
Hmm.
This is actually kind of great.
But the assumption is that you are playing as members of a flight formation, as one whole crew. And also, hi there, Kiwi. Uh, the aerial crew is composed of a captain, so the guy in charge of the dragon, a first lieutenant, the second in command, the one who's actually barking the orders, uh, top men, people who are trained to man the top of the dragon during combat and repel boarding parties, signalers, officers who signal orders to the crew, using flags and speaking horns. Uh, each military has their own signal system. Uh, Bellmen, often on the lower rigging of a dragon, including mid-wing men in charge of equipment and harnessing of it. Lookouts, who are responsible for communicating friendly and enemy formation movements as well as weather conditions. And riflemen, who are in charge in engaging combatants with firepower. The number and the type of soldiers on board will vary greatly depending on the size of the dragon and what crewmen are available. Uh, Larger crews may have additional lieutenants and officers, multiple riflemen, um, and if there's large riflemen, they might have a commanding officer to coordinate their fire. So this is where you can get the whole 20 or 48 rows of guns. uh,
I guess they'd be doing broadsides and what have you in these, wouldn't they?
mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like the combination of this really advanced flight with this really primitive kind of firepower. That's nifty.
Mm-hmm. But the bond between dragon and captain is strong enough that if a boarding party captures the captain, the dragon will immediately surrender. Uh, and a common aerial battle tactic is attempting to board and capture the enemy captain, both to end the fight and to take a whole dragon prisoner. Uh, but there's also ground crew when it comes to formations. They don't go into combat, but they do travel in the netting under a dragon when going to new bases. You're not likely to play as a member of the ground crew, but you may have trained as one. So, and also, hello there, witness. Welcome to the party. uh, but for the ground crew, we have the armorer,
Yeah,
experts, so NCOs in dealing with repair, craft, and distribution of combat plating for dragons. Harness master, who is in charge of the workings and condition of the harness. Harness men, who are in charge of securing and tearing down the harness of a dragon. Leather worker, who's in charge of making the harnesses for humans and dragons. And gunners, who are in charge of the supply and inventory of weaponry for the crew.
I'm kind
Dragon.
of concerned about this setup though. Because I mean, this has the sort of same setup that like Starfinder has, where like everybody has like a role. But if I feel like any one of these could be like a single skill role when you get right down to it, the majority of the maneuvering and what have you done by like one player. I don't know. I have my reservations with this setup.
Yeah. But obviously, you do. While you are expected to follow orders when you're on the front lines, you have to make your own decisions. There are going to be those kind of dilemmas where there's no way to get instant advice from someone a ways away. You'd have to in that case, you'd have to write a letter and wait for orders. So if you don't have the luxury of time, you've got to make your own initiative. But then we get into the how to play, and the first page of this is a lot of baseline material, so I'm skipping that.
Yeah, I feel like we can just move past this.
Then we go into the core mechanic, and I like that it's in one little graphic like this. Fragged Empire does a similar thing.
This is just good game design, like straight up. I try to do stuff like this with Lone Wolf Fist too. When I'm doing like the cheat sheets or the anything like that, this is the format you want. It's beautiful. It
Yep.
sticks in your mind. It's easy to reference. The process becomes crystal clear. Your expectations are all clear. It's beautiful, beautiful work.
Hmm. But any roll is called a challenge roll. You'd collect a pool of d6s and roll each 5 or 6 as a hit. More hits, better. Is better. Um, it is attribute plus skill. If you're trained, you add 1 die. If you're adept, add 1 die or minimum 1 hit. If you're master, you add 1 hit. So this isn't attribute plus skill in the style of, say, Shadowrun, it appears.
Yeah, it's
Um,
got a real Shadowrun energy to it.
yeah, it's not. I have a feeling that the main contributor to your pool is going to be your attribute. Skill is going to give a bit of a skew depending on the 3 setups, but I don't think skill is going to be a hard number. You're either trained, adept, or master if you have skill in something.
Yeah.
Um, and the question of, are the circumstances favorable to you in your action? If yes, take another die. Do you have useful assets like resources or equipment? If yes, take another die. If if you would have to roll but you don't have any dice, you'd roll 2d6 and take the lowest. Uh, if you get no hits, that's a fail. The GM gets to say what happens. If it's 1 hit, it is an unstable result. It is basically a success at a cost. Um, if it's 2 hits, that's a full success. So you do what you wanted to do without any complication. If it's 3 or more hits, that is a triumphant success. So that is your yes and.
Yeah. So a lot of games do this where they kind of encode that those four general outcomes into things. It's been around at least since what New World of Darkness, probably before then even. Apocalypse World games do stuff like this. I'm not the biggest fan. I find that if I'm constantly having to yes and results of dice, they're asking me to do work as a GM I don't always want to do. Like sometimes the fact that I'm rolling and I'm getting a yes or no result is more than enough drama, right? I don't necessarily need to add all these extra things. And then there's always this calculus I have behind the screen where I'm like, well, is this comparable to the benefit I offered this other guy? Is this too punitive of a measure? Because like, am I asking for too much for this unstable result? Like, I don't know. Without strong guidelines, I have reservations about this system as well.
Uh, I'm fine with it. I think a major reason is I don't think
I
you're going to
mean,
be using Shadowrun level dice pools. I'd imagine the dice pools you're
no.
dealing with are going to be significantly smaller.
Right, but you had to get a six to
Um,
succeed.
five or
Oh no,
six.
five or six. Okay, that's not too bad. If it was a six, I would be like, "Ooh, we're gonna see a lot of, a lot of defeat in this system." 5 or 6 isn't too bad though. That's a 1/3 chance. That's pretty good.
Plus
And
some.
I think I was skimming this earlier. I think they actually break down the percentages for you later on.
Plus,
So,
if you have adept, you're getting 1 success You can get 1 success automatically. If
oh
you're a
yeah, but
master,
that's
you can
still
get 2.
right. The problem I have with that though is still that that's putting you at unstable, which is still the system asking me as a GM to be spontaneously creative with what should be a yes or no answer that I'm consulting the dice for. So
Uh,
it's I set up a scenario, right, or the circumstances set up a scenario. Then we consult the dice for yes or no, and they give us a yes but, and then they ask me what the but is. So unless there's guidelines for that step, I feel like that's extra work I don't want to put in. And this isn't some unusual thing. A lot of systems do this nowadays, but I don't like the received wisdom of it. Unless they've done something special with it, that's kind of lazy design.
but
I know. I'm hypercritical here, but I've done this a lot before,
yeah.
so I know what my tastes are there.
Uh, and uh, and there does seem to be a fair bit of guidance as far as what you'd want to roll for and what you wouldn't. Um, the the other the other the other elements, like it goes into a lot of what it considers favorable situation, favorable circumstance, and does give a few examples there.
Yeah, let's
When
say
it,
there's a lot of advice on it. So
mhm,
maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm just
yeah,
because if this gives really good advice, then I'm not worried about it. Especially if it gives you like bullet points. Like you
and
can do this, you can do that.
with unstable result, there it goes into a lot of what they consider the additional cost.
Man, look at that. Yeah, there's a lot of thought.
Uh,
Let's see. I still feel like he'd be adjudicating a lot here.
well,
I
you
think that if they're going to continue with this, and I think this is pretty baked in,
mhm,
I'd highly recommend to them to be very concrete with what costs are appropriate. I
yeah,
mean, like I think I'd still allow the GM to be more creative because what you want to do is you don't want the floor for mastery to be too high for this, but you also don't necessarily want there to be a ceiling to the GM's creativity and creative input in the game. So
mhm,
having a list, and again, Apocalypse World gives you a list, right? That's great design. Because you have that floor there at a bar where you're not constantly having to freestyle some new, completely arbitrated result, which is what we consulted the dice for in the first place, right?
yeah,
So I would probably firm that up because I think, especially if they're going to let the GM kind of ultimately be the arbiter of what happens, there's no skill ceiling there. You'll find your own style and free
mhm,
will it eventually.
yeah. But we also have a rule for helping. To help another PC, you might hand over a useful asset to provide a die if there's enough time.
Oh yeah.
Shift circumstances in favor of a new action, though this usually requires a challenge roll first. So there is a help rule so that PCs can help each other on that front.
Yeah,
Uh,
I really like I like that handing them a thing which gives them a die. There's
mhm,
something really solid about that. So I like that.
yeah, there's also a nice little chart on page 12
Oh, here
going
we go. Yeah.
into the way the different tiers of success might be presented. Uh,
Yeah, this is a good start.
mhm,
I think it for brand new GMs, I don't think this is enough, but this is a good start to
yeah,
get like at least if we're getting a taste of what they're thinking. I think this is a solid beginning
yeah.
to that.
Uh, so then they do bring up opposed challenge rolls. Uh,
Yeah,
Sometimes this is in the case where if one PC wants to take an action and another PC wants to stop them. Only
yeah.
PCs make challenge rolls. NPCs might make conflict rolls, but not challenge rolls. So this is your opposed check essentially. Uh,
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about here. If the winner of a competition has an unstable result at the end and is willing to pay the associated cost, they still win the competition, but they face a defeat on the challenge roll. For example, they snatch the item from the first floor, but they slip and can't catch themselves in time. They spill straight out the window. It's like, man, that's a lot of adjudication there. Right? It's just giving them permission, like the GM permission to say, I can be creative with how you fail or what comes next, which I don't really think you need permission for. I feel like you can pretty much already do that as a
yeah.
GM. So again, the received wisdom of it feels lazy to me. It's just every game does some version of this nowadays.
Uh, but shifting to the conflict roll, uh, it is the primary type that's done during conflicts. It's assembled the same way as a challenge roll, but has lower stake. For a conflict roll, defeats do not lead to massive changes in the situation immediately. Most of the time, defeat in a conflict is simply a failure to achieve your intent. Uh, and
So is this? Are we talking about attacks and blocks here? Is that what this is going for?
no, I think that, especially given the example one they give with the ball, uh, I think it's more of
Oh, okay,
the
okay.
level of impact. Uh,
Yeah, so it's one of those man versus nature, being addressed with man versus man, but
mhm,
not in like a life or death way. Okay.
mhm. Yeah, and the example they give with the ball shows the setup, a overview of it. The setup for a single round, whether
Oh wow.
and whether or not you're involved in the dancing or just watching.
I
The
do like this, but man, it is very fourth edition. These guys definitely cut their teeth on fourth.
uh, which, if this were any other show, that would be a detriment. But I will
Yeah, it's
remind
not.
you,
I
I
love fourth. I learned a lot from fourth edition too. It's a
yeah,
brilliant system. So,
uh,
but man, you can tell, you can see its fingerprints, right?
mhm. uh, which will always be funny to me because I've had so many people insist to me that fourth edition is worse than Hitler or some shit, and
Yeah,
yet
I
I
mean,
keep finding games that clearly were taking some notes from it.
yeah. The only problem is that it was labeled Dungeons and Dragons. Honestly, I think if you just release and I think 13th Age bears me out there. If you play 13th Age and you don't tell people it's based on fourth, they love it.
Um,
You know, it's player empowering. It's rich. It's got wonderfully intricate rules.
Draw Steel is far more blatant. With 13th Age, you have Heinzel working on it, of course, but
Mm.
uh, there I think the reason I think it's for a while it was like I don't know about the whole the problem was it was named the problem was it had the D&D name. Nowadays I think that's the case because of how the community for that game seems to have mastered the art of getting in their own way, especially since some of the complaints I saw about fourth, I saw word for word about third in 2000, which is why I don't take
Man,
them so serious.
Wha- and that's the thing. There's so many things you could claim are D&D, right? But the reality is, it's almost like what even at the beginning of the hobby, it's like, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the red box? Are you talking about the wood grain box? Are you talking about Blackmore, which predates it? Are you talking about a D&D? Like, where are we drawing the line for what Dungeons and Dragons is? It's always been a very malleable thing, right? And part of the reason I like how different the editions are is because you can see really new, vibrant ideas in like every single edition. So,
Although, on the other hand, look, I've made no bones about the fact that I do not respect grognards,
hey,
and
fair enough.
uh, and a lot of in the name of maintaining tradition, a lot of grogs insist on the right way to do things.
Of course. Well, every table does. If you're the kind of person who GMs, immediately you think you know the right way to do things, and I'm no different.
Yeah, that's one thing, but I drew my first bit of conflict was when there was an insistence um on what I could or couldn't draw influence from. Even nowadays I see that to an extent.
What the hell does that mean? What do you mean? What you couldn't draw influence from?
I was given a long energetic lecture about how I shouldn't put in elements from video games in my TTRPG. And
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
this happened in this happened in 1999.
Jesus.
And
I okay. I could see where you'd get advice like that, like because I mean, sure, to some extent, you want to keep the lineage kind of clear, right? So that makes sense, and it gets a little muddy because, like, especially young RPGs, like video game RPGs. I mean, they learned a lot, right? We were talking about Dragon Quest earlier. That's a great example. You know, like that learned a lot from Dungeons and Dragons, and then it kind of did something else. It evolved the idea for its medium. So bringing that back into the medium feels a little bit like calling a platypus a beaver. It's like, well, I mean, I'm sure they've got some kind of common ancestor or something, but like we're going pretty far back in the tree. Right? It feels awkward.
Dragon Quest drew more from um Wizardry and Ultimate than it did from D&D directly.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah,
Um,
I think really Final Fantasy was the one that had like more clear Vancian spell slots and things like that. So I
yeah,
suppose
that was an informed choice. with the original FF.
Like,
Um,
you notice that they abandoned it almost immediately. So,
well,
and
the
again, Final Fantasy did such cool things with it though. They thought of other things that
yeah,
worked for their medium, and you can be inspired by those and port them back. It does feel a little weird, I'll grant you, but so like what do you mean? It's so bizarre to have. Why would you put boundaries on what inspires you? Like look at the work you've been doing. I I could go on. You know,
yeah,
let's get back to the game.
but I will note I do like this sidebar answering what kind of dance might be at this ball.
Oh yeah, I thought that was really cool too. I think that's where I started because so I saw that sidebar when I was glancing through this earlier, and my first knee jerk reaction was, this is so like this is so tedious. Why would you need this? If you've read the books, you already know. If you know about the time period, you already know. And then the more I thought about it, the more I read through it, the more I was like, actually, this is kind of a great description of what these dances can be and do, and how they would interact with the actual game itself. Like look at Waltz, for example, a couples dance that provides ample opportunity for the two dancers to interact, but especially as it was only gaining in popularity in Europe at the time, it was still considered quite a scandalous dance. Provides favorable circumstances to embarrass, convince with a seductive bent, or learn. Any scandal marked while dancing a waltz is increased by one box. There are rules for the medium of role playing. You choose your combat theater with choosing your dance. That's brilliant. That's actually really like I've never seen anything like that before. That's
Hmm.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I wound up falling in love with this sidebar. And if
Now,
they have a lot of that in this game,
mhm.
mwah.
Now they do provide another conflict example with a draconic feast. Um,
Mm.
is saying dragons play their own hierarchical games amongst themselves, often relying upon a single framework of size and combat ability to determine dominance. Being higher in the hierarchy conveys status, reputation, and spoils during the feast. Being lower conveys disregard and scraps, but some dragons have always strained at the chains of those hierarchies and do their best to cast them down. Um,
Yeah, I like that there's a setup and an overview. Like they really, this is brilliant for bringing new GMs into your system, because as soon as I started looking at this, I
mhm,
was like, wait a minute, they're giving you a template for any kind of conflict, right? This is saying, okay, look, it's not about like the war is going to be a big part of it, but there's so much going on, and there's so many
mhm.
ways that you can dig into the mechanics and make them this vibrant part of the role playing experience. Here are some ways to structure that in a meaningful way where you can communicate the stakes to your players really easily. And I'm floored. That's beautiful. You just
Mhm.
don't see this kind of design anymore. Like they used to do this in like Vampire the Masquerade. I remember they had a lot of rules for this kind of stuff, but they've really, I don't know. I just don't see this level of thoughtfulness and structure a lot in role playing games, and it's a beautiful piece of design. This is.
Well, this is why I do what I do, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, nope, nobody does it like that. Nobody does it like this or that," and I end up being the one who ends up disabusing people of
Disagreeing.
that illusion, because I'm
Well,
like, here's like
you're so
18 games that do exactly what you're complaining about. Where the hell are you?
yeah, you're so widely read, that you can actually recommend them with some authority. It's wonderful.
Hmm. Of course, some of them end up clamming up because they end up getting made like a fool, which was part of my goal anyways. So
Well, okay, but
they
I don't know, man. It's kind of again,
well,
there's a
I
lot of vanity when you're a
say
game designer, but
say
like,
saying making them look like a fool is a bit extreme, but it's more of my goal
I
is
mean,
one of my goals has always been just to drown people in options so that the more cynical claims that are made cannot be made with a degree of reasonableness.
yeah, and you know what? That's a noble goal
Hmm.
because those are, and I think that you do a great job of revealing this. Those are founded in complete ignorance, right?
Hmm.
Just an absolute vanity that you know more about role playing games than anyone else. Brother, like, look, I've studied role playing games my entire adult life. I don't like I'm like a child
Hmm.
compared to you when it comes to how much actual system knowledge you have and the
Yeah.
variety of systems that you've used and read and learned about, you know?
Hmm.
And like there are guys that leave us both in the dust, right? And beyond that, there's a whole world that we none of us will have the time to interact with. It's such a vast hobby with such brilliant designers in it. Like
Yep.
yeah, everybody needs to chill out a little. Why don't
Hmm.
you meet the unknown with some delight for a change? You're a role player.
Oh, but they t- within the feast they do talk about very much building around the concept of hierarchy and attempts to break or get a higher spot in it. And the big part of it is the spoils that you'd end up getting out of it, like having the best seat or having the best cut of the meat. Uh,
Well, and it's really the fact that this is used to kind of count coup. Like, I love this.
mhm,
'Cause I think about how satisfying that is as a player. You know, whenever you have all this set up and players love bucking the social hierarchy, right? That's their
mhm.
favorite thing. You know, so and it's just it's so satisfying when you get a chance to humiliate an enemy without even having to fight him. Holy Lord, that's incredible.
Mhm.
I drink your milkshake indeed.
Yeah, I drink it up.
Oh God, it's
But
beautiful.
like
Yeah, there's
I
so much wonderful structure to it, but
I
it doesn't feel like a straitjacket.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm just gushing over this.
they ended up making the straitjacket analogy a few pages ago. And then we have another example of conflict with aerial battles. Going into the setup, going into the overview, and just how
Oh,
these
look
kind
at
of
these
fights
lovely examples too.
work.
These are really nice.
Um, Going
Yes, and
into
aerial
the
battles are going to be such a massive chunk of this game too.
mhm,
Like what a stage for drama, an aerial battle. Everything's so heightened,
yep,
literally.
uh, what some of the goals might be. Um, and since one of them is achieving an objective, remember, folks, PTFO. Uh, just it was something I would yell a lot when playing Battlefield. PTFO means play the fucking objective.
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in the petty goals and the melodrama without then kind of lose sight of like, oh yeah, we're not here to fight. We're here to deliver a message or whatever.
Hmm. Uh,
Yeah, goals. I I really do have a lot of respect for the modern design sensibility of setting goals prior to the conflict
hmm.
stakes being there. I find I can really make that work. The new Call of Cthulhu edition, seventh I think, has something like that for its chases, and that's like like a somewhat more structured version of goals. Like either they get away or you catch them, but it really does because it's a chaotic situation of everybody rolling dice and people moving around and what have you, and the description constantly updating, and it's easy to kind of get dug into the wargamer mindset of like, oh, I want to win, I got to get this guy. But when the goals are clear and the your distance or closeness to them is clear and what actions you have to
Hmm.
take is clear, like you can enjoy all of that, the thrill of the real contest there without it getting so muddled that it's not clear who's doing what or what progress is being made. So I'm a big fan of goal setting.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, these guys again. The more I realize that they're fellow fourth E nerds, the more I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here.
Hmm. And we have rules about well being engaged, so proximate conflict, uh, as well as the opposed results. Uh, Things like alerts and signals, which is on a point table,
Oh wow, that's
as well
cool.
as well as a action order, um, which you don't see something like roll for initiative because this is very clearly designed for bigger engagements where there's a full-on line of battle.
Yeah, which what a tremendous thing to put in a jump start, right?
Hmm. Uh, and things like tactics, which one of the big reasons you'd want the lookouts to generate alert points is when rolling for tactics, you can spend those points to get more dice. Uh,
My only concern again with that, I come back to my initial concern, which is I don't want anyone's role in a conflict to be reduced to what do your dice say that you do, right? And if you don't have any interesting decisions to make, that's what it boils down to. So
I
I
don't
worry
see
about
that
that.
happening here. Oh,
Okay, well, how do you figure? I mean, because you get alert points from rolling, right?
you get, that is one that is one part of the thing.
Well, right, but what I'm talking about is in terms of a given player's role, right? If they are the person generating alert points, then we're just rolling the die. Like that's their whole role in the actual conflict.
I
Do they have
don't
any other
think
decision they could make?
I don't see anything that gives the impression that when you're making that roll, that's the only thing that you're doing.
Okay.
Especially since it talks about if there's no signals unit, then any other PC on the dragon can make that roll. So you might have a situation of one person who of an NPC might do it at one point, but then that NPC gets a bad case of gunfire,
Yeah, see,
and someone's like,
yeah,
"You,
many dragons have a
you're the new
signal units
signaler."
board, and whose only
Yep.
purpose is to make this roll. So it explicitly says their only purpose is to make the roll. So that I would again, since this is still in design, if the designers are listening, I would really reconsider anytime you've reduced any player to a roll. Right?
Yep.
Like I might be misinterpreting this a little bit, but
Hmm.
I would highly recommend they give them choices they can make. Different kinds of, like, even if it was a choice between are we going to look more to get more points or are we going to signal more to give more information out? Even that would be something, right? That's at least a choice you can make. You know,
Yeah.
how do I split my dice pool this round? You know,
But the and when it comes but I think on some level when you're especially given the scale of different conflicts, you do have to make sure it doesn't become sprawling. Uh,
well, no, I'm because I think about this in terms of this is a role playing game. So you have a group of friends around a table, and everybody's got a role they have to play, and it's the same way with a board game or whatever, you know. But if and I'm a fan of games where things can go very wrong. So, like for example, in the Dune board game, you can be in a situation where you really don't have any decisions to make during your turn. You have to hold the line and hope for a good draw or a good bid or whatever, because
yep.
otherwise you're dead in the water, right? And that's the least fun that Dune can be. It's not the worst thing in the world to have a failure
Hmm.
state, but if the failure state is having less fun, then that sucks.
Yep.
But if you design your game such as that's the thing that you're doing, then you've designed the worst kind of fun you could have. So you gotta be on the alert for that. You know, what's the
Hmm.
role of this player? If they're a signal corpsman, why is that fun to be, right?
Yep.
So again, it's something to put some thought into. And again, if ever anyone wants to be inspired and horrified by a board game, the original Avalon Hill Dune, holy smokes,
Yep.
that will really clarify your thinking about how much creativity you can wedge into something
Hmm.
that has a very defined role. So
But I'll I'll have something on that in a minute. But
sure, sure.
shifting to characters, they
Oh yeah,
do
that's a good
first go
point. Yeah.
into the attributes. There are four of them that are usually rated from 0 to 4. Uh, a 3 to 4 in an attribute usually means you have some uncanny aptitude in areas related to it.
Okay, so 3 and 4
Uh,
is very high.
mhm.
Which makes sense.
So,
3 or more, you're getting close to guaranteeing a success per roll.
mhm.
So, I mean, you're not exactly, but the percentage is pretty high.
Yep. Uh, but the four are body, cunning, manners, and steel.
Yep, nice,
Uh,
clean. I like those four. And I like whenever they all seem to have a lot to do. You
mhm.
know what I mean? Like if you're the body guy, that gives you a lot to do. If you're the steel guy, it gives you a lot to do. These all lend themselves strongly to roles to the point where they're basically your class. I'm fine with that. I think that's great.
Yep. Uh, and there now, when it comes to skills, uh, each of the attributes has it looks like 3 skills each that they're associated with. So we're
Yeah, I can
definitely
see
not
those there.
so that's another trap that Shadowrun has that we're definitely avoiding.
Yep.
We don't have a like this was a thing I noticed with a lot of games in the early 90s of just having these ridiculously long skill lists. Every
Yeah,
game from
and
Fantasy Games Unlimited is my whipping boy for this kind of thing.
there's so many problems with that kind of design. That front loading of choice without any clear direction is such a pain in the
Yeah.
neck as a new player. Like
I
once you get some system mastery, it winds up being okay. But honestly, this really you need to
I
make that many decisions.
I call that kind of thing swim, damn it.
Yeah. Oh
A
yeah.
nod to
That's
the
that's
Penny
brilliant.
Arcade strip about talking about Mass
Yeah, but
Effect.
how do I do that? Swim! Stop drowning! Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that strip.
Uh, and I know some people might say if I'm talking about offensively long skill lists, oh, you're probably talking about D&D Third Edition. That D&D Third Edition of those compared to the ones from the 90s is actually restrained.
Big time. Like they didn't live through the horrors, Mildred. They don't know. They are but
Like
children.
there is a reason why Palladium Games entirely is my whipping boy and has been my whipping boy for most of my life.
Okay, well, I gotta stand up for a little bit for my guys at Palladium because I do actually love Palladium games.
Hmm.
However, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
I
and
cannot gainsay you, sir.
the ultimate case in point is Phoenix Command, a game that I have made explicitly
That
clear
was
I will
yeah.
never run again unless I am handsomely paid. It's also the reason I did take a shot at it when Free League put out their Alien RPG. I had said, finally we have an Alien RPG I can actually recommend to people without losing my hair. Because the first one that came out in 93 ish was a variant of Phoenix Command's rule set and was in that hardcore simulationism that does not hold up with age.
Not really. It's just I
Right up
kind of
there with
learned
like
the
the
wrong
Moral
lesson.
Project, or why it's very hard for me to, even though I enjoy parts of it, it's hard for me to recommend the Arma video games to people just because
Yeah.
it requires a. They're not bad games. I want to make that clear, but it requires a
No, no,
very
okay. But
specific mindset.
yeah, that's the thing. If you know someone's personality, you know whether or not that's a good recommendation for them. You know what I mean? All right.
Yeah.
So what's the dragon versus human attributes here? I'm interested in playing a dragon. So that's obviously you get into this
Yeah.
game, you want to play a dragon. Does this give us enough to go with there?
What it does say is that um, PCs and NPCs have the same attributes.
Okay.
The attributes are not on an absolute scale.
Okay, it's not actually. We're not looking at things like body mass here. We're looking at things more like almost like plot relevance.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I I have my own flavor of opinion on that. I think that's fine. I'm
mhm.
gonna be honest. It's not to my taste, but to each his own, and I don't think there's any problem with this. Well, there's one problem, which is what you see is what you get. If I describe a huge hulking brute, but his stats don't match that, then why would you like? Why wouldn't you have the description lead the effect,
Yeah.
right? So I feel like there should be a connection, but again, that's just because it's my particular brand of autism,
Yeah.
you know. And this is more of a theater kid way of doing it, which is fine.
Mhm.
It's just
But
fine.
there are also four dangers to account for, each representing a looming threat against you, growing in severity and closeness. Those four dangers are dishonor, getting in trouble with the military, its structures, and the opinions of its members; scandal, getting in trouble with society, its structures, and the opinions of its members; stress, mental damage, exhaustion; and wounds, physical damage leading to death. And
This is very Blades in the Darkish.
mhm,
Actually, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a oh, what was it, Spire? It's based on Blades in the Dark, but it's something similar where you kind of have four health tracks, and some of them are like social or financial. Um,
mhm,
so yeah, I've not actually played a game in which I've had to deal with these,
yep,
so I can't really give an informed opinion on them, and it bothers me because I'm really fascinated with how they work and play.
mhm,
Conceptually, I think they're great, but concept and execution are very different animals, and I think that like I can see at my table having the more simulationist bent that I have. Players being like, okay, I got really dishonored, so now the cops are gonna show up and throw me into a military jail. I'm gonna fight them,
The
right?
because of the boxes and levels approach, the vibe I get more is things like honor and glory progression in, say, Legend of the Five Rings, since it talks about
Sure, but in,
when
in
you have to
Legends of the
mark.
Five Rings, whenever you got dishonored, you would commit seppuku. Like that wasn't something you could negotiate at the table. Your
Um,
superiors would tell you that, and like, okay, so uniquely, Legend is, especially Fourth Edition, which is the one I played a lot of. You don't stand a prayer against someone who is just one ring above you at all.
um,
Like if you're like, I'm just gonna start stabbing stuff, that will absolutely fail. So
what
it is a game in which society is dictated by these super powerful warriors and
what I'm
practices.
referring to on that is the whole filling up a set of boxes, and then once it's completely filled, the level goes up by one.
Oh, well.
And the thing is that once a danger reaches level 8, you are overcome for it. You're overcome by that danger, and you have to face a crisis related to it. Um,
Okay. Yeah, facing a crisis is a little better because that at that point it's just here's the challenge you have to deal with, which totally gets around my issue.
mhm. They they don't go into some crises may remove you from the game as you attend to them. There's a short list of what crises can be for the purpose of this quick start and
I've
the
seen stuff like this.
potential forms that they can take.
I've seen stuff like this in what was it, the Song of Ice and Fire RPG from back in the day.
Yeah.
Uh, Similarly, I this isn't a lot of these aren't super new concepts. They're just kind of putting them together in their own way.
Hmm.
Um, I'm honestly stuff like this makes me want to play the game.
Yeah.
It really does.
But whenever, and of course, then we also have devotions, which are very much meant to represent the tangle between what the character wants and what they feel obligated to do.
Yeah.
Uh, basically the extreme of duty and desire. Uh,
I don't know how necessary it is to mark this on a character sheet.
um, given the setting that we're dealing with, and given the rigid structures within the assumption of what PCs are, I can see why it's here. Uh,
The problem I have is this line right here. If you can't choose either option, then you can't resist your devotion. You must give in to it immediately. Like, okay, I'm not a vampire being forced by the beast to do something. I should be able to roleplay my own character. I'm a stickler for stuff like that. I don't need to be shoved into drama. I should just be able to roleplay, and the game should provide drama. Like I don't like being shoved into what is effectively a queue that I can't get out of. It feels too scripty to me, right? So that's my again. In certain games, I'm more forgiving. Like if I'm a werewolf and I'm barely in control of my mind because I'm half monster, basically. Okay, fine. Sometimes I fly into a rage and kill people. That's completely acceptable. I'm just a dude, right? I'm a Napoleonic era dude, and I
mhm.
get being in stressful situations and that needing to be reflected in the rules, but I kind of hate stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying it's never appropriate. I'm saying I dislike it in general.
Yeah,
It leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
but and we also have resources, and these are these are minor assets that consist of two parts: the number of uses of that resource and the function of it. So, uh, and resources are particularly useful for challenge roles. They're in some ways meant to be the answer to, does the PC have any particularly useful assets that could help you with the check? Uh,
Let's see. Okay.
and
So, the it looks pretty much just like tracking ammo. I'm not seeing anything that really brings it away from that.
um,
Seems reasonable.
yep,
Yeah, you can use it 3 times. Okay.
that's you can carry 6 individual resources max. This is very much meant to be an approximation approach. We're not doing the whole tracking individual bullets thing.
No, no, we're let's see. Yeah, it
Uh,
seems to be abstracted enough that it's really, again, it's there for dramatic reasons.
mhm.
We're not tracking it because this isn't a war game, and it's the problem I have with this is that it is presupposing that people are a better judge of a dramatic situation than the natural orchestration of circumstances as they arise in gameplay. I never know when the players are going to run out of ammo in games in which I track ammunition discreetly because it's up to them, isn't it? Like, and at that point, if that's a big deal, it is dramatic, and I had no say in it. And so there's a natural mechanism that creates drama. This presupposing that you know whether or not you will have enough ammo for it to be dramatically important in the upcoming battle, it's just kind of like, again, it's more that the GM has to decide about that the game isn't providing to them. And I think people see the burden of tracking ammo, but they don't see the benefit of tracking arrow for the GM. And I that's one of the reasons anytime we diverge from it, I'm like, okay, but why would you do that? Like, you could just say it doesn't matter, right? You can go that way, or you can say track it individually. This halfway approach kind of gives you the worst of both worlds. So I'm not a fan of this.
But in that, we do have the notion of areas of expertise, which represents earned knowledge, and is in the tiers of casual, veteran, and esoteric expertises. Um, and
Yeah, I
and
like that tiering.
a lot of times it's a way of answering, would your PC know that? Um,
Yes, which I love that
mhm.
with skills. So I think that's an excellent use right there
Yeah, and,
because it helps you stay in character, right? I also like this sidebar here where they're talking about how you answer questions as a
mhm,
GM, like and you're answering it from the character's perspective. That's great advice,
yeah,
right? And it's so refreshing to see just good, solid advice in a modern RPG product. I've read so many bad ones over the last decade that just having some designers with their heads screwed on right is so bloody refreshing.
mhm. But the last thing that they go into is the attributes for NPCs, which
Mm.
they do have the same attributes as PCs. NPCs do
Yeah,
not
but
make
it's not
challenge
along the
rolls,
way.
as mentioned before, but they will make conflict rolls, especially in opposition to a PC. Um, the
Yeah, and then they have their resistances. This is all pretty boilerplate stuff, but it's nice to see competently built, small, usable NPC stat blocks.
mhm,
Wonderful.
yeah,
Um, I mean, this isn't a heavyweight system by any stretch of the imagination, but you know that they still put the thought in.
mhm,
I read the entirety of Spire, and it didn't put this kind of thought into how it would structure its NPCs in a meaningful way.
yep,
It really just kind of yada yadas them, and it's like, well, that's just me doing work instead of the system, boyos.
mhm,
So I like that they're like, here's the system will do work for you. Thank you,
yep,
wonderful, very simple, very eloquent, very effective. No complaints. 10 out of 10.
mhm.
So yeah,
And
actually, are we into the mission already? Oh my goodness!
yeah,
Wow. Oh
and
wow, it's got a big sexy map in it too. I'm just go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and it also some of the stat blocks that are for NPCs as well as for the threats. The only thing that I don't see, and probably because I believe it is in a separate PDF, is the pre-gen characters. It does have a thing on the background for them.
Oh,
As
you're right. Where are the preachers? Oh,
mhm.
that would be quite an oversight.
Yep,
Not that I haven't done that exact thing.
mhm.
Oh
But
goodness.
there's also a nod about at start of play, players fill in bonds to connect their PCs with each other. Um,
That's always nice.
mhm.
Well, one of the brilliant things about this game is that you can just they're all under the same commander, right?
Yeah,
Immediately they have orders, they're on the same side, boom,
mhm.
and there's plenty of drama. For even if that's as tenuous as a connection as they have, there's plenty of drama in war. Like you're never going to be at one for dramatic circumstances
Yeah,
and dramatic inter-party conflict. So brilliant choice of settings for that reason alone.
Hmm.
But and again, it's sort of a received wisdom ever since, God, what, Fate, Fudge, forever ago, that characters will already have something filled in with each other.
Hmm.
It's fine. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it, and I think it's probably a good way to get players talking really
Hmm.
quickly. And the talking at the table and role playing at the table is where the real connection comes from. So it's
Yeah.
completely fine. I don't have a problem with it.
So my overall thoughts on Temeraire is oddly enough, as I was going through it, I was reminded of the style of play that Ars Magica tries to encourage.
Yeah, that's a good
The
call actually.
the passion play type of approach,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, it's clear that their focus is on the dramatic conflict. They're less interested in the outcome of the war because it's sort of predetermined a little bit.
yep.
Even if it wasn't historically, it certainly is in the books, right? They're
Also
interested in your characters and the drama they
I
have.
did check the pre-gens are in a separate PDF,
Okay,
thing,
okay. They
and
look nice. I can't see them.
the yeah, each one's only 2 pages, and because of the way it's set up, that's all that's really needed. Um,
Beautiful. Yeah, I like the two-page spreads personally.
there's also a nice little 1 page play aid, so basically a cheat sheet.
Very nice. These
Uh,
guys know how to do it. Yeah, those cheat sheets are great quality of life adds to a pre-gen adventure like this. If you're like advice to people making their own quick starts and jump starts, put in that cheat sheet. Make it individually printable.
hmm,
I'd recommend one for the players and one for the GM. It's
yeah,
just great quality of life there.
but because of how straightforward NPCs and PCs are in this, I wouldn't be surprised if the full game encourages um, individual players to have a trope of PCs that are called upon in different circumstances, because
Really? That'd be interesting.
it especially with the whole you're part of a dragon's crew.
Mm,
It is clear to me that the that the player setup that we have here isn't a one-to-one with, say, a typical adventuring party or even a circle you might see in Vampire. It's meant to
really?
be it is meant to be a bit larger in scope. You know, a
Well,
whole,
yeah. Yeah, we were looking at those conflict rules where you're like giving orders and like you have like whole battle lines clashing. Like that's tremendous.
so
you know.
basically this thing is a bit more zoomed out, for
Mm.
lack of a better term. So if you're looking, I'd say if folks are looking for something that's a bit more zoomed in on the more minute details of individual characters, this is not going to be a good fit. But
I
for
think you're
people
right.
who want a more dramatic approach, a more cinematic approach, this will be a more natural fit.
Oh yeah. Again, I'm reminded of Harry Turtledove's method of storytelling, where he tells big stories with big characters. But like you're right, he tells them in this way that has this consequentiality extending past the individual characters.
Hmm.
And with the way the rules are designed in this to kind of look at your reputation and look at like your commanding officer's opinion of you and things like that, I think you're right. I think that if you want to tell grandiose stories, you found a hell of a system for it here.
Hmm. Because especially as I was going through it, and especially with the aerial combat, for whatever reason, my mind kept thinking of the anime Last Exile.
Oh yeah,
Great series,
yeah,
by the way. Uh, and as well as oddly enough, Master and Commander, which is
oh
one of the
yeah.
rare cases where I'm more willing to recommend the movie than the books. Don't get me wrong, the books are great, but the books are soaked in the terminologies of naval code from 200 years ago.
Yes, and if you are the audience for that, there's nothing on that scale. And if you're not, oh my god, yeah, just watch the movie.
Yeah, 'cause
You'll
I
get
ended up
you'll get
using
the
the
big
movie
stuff.
as reference material when I was running Seventh Sea for a while, because it it does a very good. I know some people have issues with that movie, but it does a very good job of presenting just the day-to-day life on a ship when it comes to the on-the-ground people compared to the officer corps.
Mm. Yeah, I like that contrast.
Uh,
And again, you'll probably see that in this game. There's a lot to recommend this. I
yeah.
think. I think looking at Master and Commander, that's a really good. Like if that's the kind of thing that you're into and you want to tell those stories,
Hmm.
there's not a lot of role playing games that have that kind of like sort of drawn back focus. It's impressive to see the design on this one.
Yeah.
I think that you've really kind of captured the essence of it with that outlook.
Hmm. And
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to PACT tonight, Mildred. I'm getting kind of sleepy. I got work tomorrow. I'm getting
uh,
EB, my friend.
so I'm gonna take a quick break, then we'll try and power through Pact.
Okay, it'll have to be a quick. It'll have to be quick. I might be up for 20 more minutes before the EP gets to me.
All right. Um,
But PACT looks pretty lightweight, though. I mean, to be fair, it's oh my god, it's way bigger than I thought it was. It's 70 pages. It's twice as big as the other one. Mildred, we're
well,
doomed. I'm gonna die. Everyone listening at home, you're about to hear a dead man. Oh god.
I will drag you out of the grave if I have to. But I'll be back I'll be back in a couple. So,
Also kind of
and we
brooding
are
over PACT a
back,
little bit.
ladies and gentlemen. Uh, so with this one packed, and I will note in the interest of full disclosure, both this one and Temeraire, I did back on Kickstarter. And PACT is coming to us from Greece and is using the Year Zero engine, so there's going to be some familiar bits. I've covered Year Zero engine games in the past. But and it looks like it's another case where you have the rules set up and then it's covering the adventure called Trials of Chains. But first off, let's answer the question: what is PACT? Where it says PACT is an urban fantasy occult horror role-playing game. The players will assume the role of regular, mundane, everyday people, pact bearers, who, for better or for worse, made a deal with a demon. Was it in a moment of weakness, or maybe a gambit for power? Was it for exacting revenge from someone, or a rushed decision out of desperation? You will do terrible and delicious things, Leveling. You will cheat, murder, and lie. You will fall in love, you will hate with all your heart, and you will get what you want, no matter the cost. After all, you have a malicious entity having your back if you ever need it. but you will be called to make good on your end of the deal too. There's always a catch to these things, after all. And the GM in this is referred to as the Whisperer, which is one of the more interesting titles I've seen GMs get.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a pretty unusual one.
mhm.
It's not quite
But,
as good as Hollyhock God, but that one's unrivaled.
mhm. uh, but then we have a pact in a nutshell. Essentially, this is like a lot of games in this particular occult horror style. You're dealing with a secret war, a war that humanity is a part of, even if they don't fully realize it.
Yeah, this one is exceptionally World of Darkness. Looking at it.
Oh, and there's the last of the benevolent entities, Watchers, the ones who came to watch over humanity, abandoned their duty. They fell in love with the subjects they were supposed to protect and serve. They desired human food, human connections, and human ignorance. Their punishment came swift and true. Their act of hubris sounded the trumpet of the apocalypse.
Womp womp womp. That's the trumpet of the apocalypse, for the record, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Though as a result of that, the last act of God, who, out of sorrow or spite, abandoned his creation and left it to fend for itself. Demons and angels started making contact with humans and binding themselves to them via the power of a pact. And the world keeps turning and rotting with each passing day, every minute of every hour. Invisible hands pull at the strings of the world. It's no divine punishment, it is chaos. It's a slow unraveling beyond human comprehension. The forces of hell do not reveal themselves openly because they do not need to. The war to end all wars is near its end and it has been lost, not to superior weaponry, but to whispers and nudges. The Watchers, as their final act of sacrifice for humanity, decided that no one, angel or demon, should have the last say on humanity's last chapter, and poured their essence into items called the Keys of the Apocalypse. They are nowadays scattered all over the world. Some of them ended up in caves and ruined cities of lost civilizations. Others are guarded by the Nephilim, and are kept hidden and safe by them.
Anytime the Nephilim show up, I'm happy.
Yep. The pact itself is not composed of paper and ink. There is no seal, no occult ritual performed at midnight under the pale moonlight, nor any handshake in a long-forgotten backwoods crossroads. No demonic being is being revealed to you, with pen and contract for you to sign with your blood. It happens at your worst, when you feel the utmost desperation, when you have lost everything, your spouse, your kids, your car, your insurance, your self-dignity. It happens when you start believing that suicide might be a valid way out of this hell on earth you found yourself into. It's like a whisper, a gentle, cold breeze in your ear, like it was always there, soothing your pain, a balm for your wounds, a soft-spoken voice in your head. It feels like something familiar, because it was always there, waiting for this moment. That's when it speaks to you. And that's when you find your second chance. That's when you grab that opportunity by the neck and never let go. Not because you want to, but because you need to. That's the nature of the pact. It doesn't offer itself freely to anyone, and that's why you accept. That's why all of us accept.
Yeah, I like this centering of human fragility, because it really does kind of speak to the character of an actual human being. Like, it's nice. A lot of times in these fantasy things, they can get kind of overwrought, because they get obsessed with this idea of what people could be, and this is kind of more talking to what people are, which is to say we're pretty fragile.
Yep.
I like that. I like the honesty of that. I think immediately I would be able to role play a character like this.
But
Actually, it kind of reminds me of the way you make a character in Fiasco, where like you sort of know that you're flawed from the outset. I kind of love that. It gives you permission to really dig into it.
But when it comes to the PC's attributes, we have 4 of them. These are on a scale of 1 to 5. Strength, agility, wits, and empathy.
Those look familiar.
Yeah, this is built on the Year Zero engine, which is the same one that's used for stuff like Alien, Eldritch Automata, which I've covered here in the past, Um,
A lot of modern RPGs have like the four attributes.
mhm,
The one we were just talking about does.
yep.
It's familiar design. But again, just because something's received wisdom doesn't mean it's bad. Like these cover your basics. They're
I'm
pretty
suddenly reminded of all
solid.
those people who kept insisting that Legend Edition was a D&D variant.
Uh, Again, received wisdom doesn't mean bad. Every game has received wisdom,
Mhm.
right? They're part of the larger conversation of the hobby.
Yeah.
I just this is a very like many games look like this nowadays. It's like how like what I want to say like 10 years ago, every game had like its own fancy dice. Like I'm looking at that Star Wars game with all the weird symbols on the dice. Like
Yep.
every game was that for a couple of years. It's just
I
how it
won't say
goes.
I won't say every game because it's very easy and very tempting to look at a few examples and come to a broad conclusion.
No,
That's
I won't say every game. You're right, but
mm,
it's more like how like Deep Impact was there the same year that Armageddon was, where it's like there's like this thing in the air, and just for this little bit, you see it everywhere, and then poof,
history
it's
often
gone.
rhymes.
Well, it's not
Uh,
even history. It's like there's this like storm of a certain particular thing in the air, and then we
yeah,
get it out of our systems. Like all the apocalypse movies around 2012, right? We had a whole bunch of them, and we don't really do it anymore.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, but of course, when it comes to enduring things, the main resources are health and resolve. Health
Yeah, I like
is
that those are.
strength plus agility. Resolve is wits plus empathy.
I still like that they're resources. That's nice.
Hmm.
Again, received wisdom, but
Yep.
that stuff works really solidly.
Hmm.
This seems like a solid little system so far.
Yep. We do have a skill list of 16. Skills are measured on skill levels between 0 to 5. Uh, and each attribute has, it looks like, 4 skills each.
Hmm?
Uh, which that's pretty standard fare for year 0. Um,
Yeah, this I like the year zero stuff a
mhm.
lot too. Again, it's not super innovative, but it's a solid system, and it kind of has that same universal appeal that like fifth edition has, where you can sort of just plop it down in front of anybody, and within a few minutes everybody's playing.
Yep.
Say what you will about fifth, you can do that, and that's a very remarkable quality.
Although I feel like I'm seeing a gradual shift because in the last week I've had like 3 or so different people come up to me and say, can you recommend me something else because my group's getting tired of
Tired of
5e.
fifth. Oh
I
well, yeah. If that's all you've played, you want to branch out. But you know what? That's a good sign. That's
well
healthy for the hobby.
I
People getting
predicted
bored
that
of
thing
D
was
and D's.
I
Well,
predicted that thing was going to happen years
of
ago.
course. Well, but of course, because it always happens. Anytime there's a boom in popularity of Dungeons and Dragons, everybody plays it. Everybody complains. It's all everybody plays. And then a few years later, the ones that are going to stick with the hobby start branching out.
Which
Where do
is
you think I came from?
which is why I've never taken the defeatism that some of my colleagues do on that
Oh
front
no.
because all I have to do is just play the long game, and I usually win.
Yep.
But
Outliving your opponent's arguments has proven to be an effective tactic.
um, but then they go into talents, which have a wide variety of things that they can take the form of. They're described as tricks, moves, and minor abilities that give you a small edge. They are more specialized than skills, uh, and they can affect how you use your skills or how you recover from injury or how to do things you otherwise couldn't. Uh, then you have vanity, which is described as the driving force behind your pact bearer. It's what they want most. It is the desire that broke them. The reason they accepted the demon's whisper in the first place. Uh,
Yeah, this is actually I've seen design echoing that and stuff like
mhm,
Exalted with the motivations.
mhm,
Um, it has its benefits and its drawbacks.
yeah.
I will say that about it. I hope that there's like a list because it was the Wild West in Exalted Second Edition, and that had very uneven results.
Yeah, we probably won't see that list in this quick start because the quick start's using pre-gens, but
Oh, sure, of course. But it would be nice. It'll be nice to see what the guidance is with the
Hmm.
pre-gens. Like, what's
Yeah.
what's the scope of this vanity? That's interesting to me.
But then there's the Pact, which if the vanity is what you desire most in the world, the Pact is the tool you are given to achieve it. Um,
Hmm.
there are 5 known natures of pacts, each offering a range of powers called blasphemies. Each pact has its own core blasphemy. You can use blasphemies whenever you choose, but with each use, the demon inside watches, and through those powers, it reveals its true nature.
Hmm.
Um,
I like that. That's a fun little, again, an immediately dramatic setup.
mhm,
Do I use this power? Is it worth it to empower the demon? The lovely
mm,
stuff there. This
yeah,
is all very White Wolf, which I'm weak to that. You know me,
yeah.
so I already love
Um,
this.
then corruption is a value from 1 to 10 that determines how much of your soul is surrendered to the demon.
Ooh.
Each time you use a blasphemy, there's a chance you let the demon take a little more of you. As corruption increases, so does the demonic influence, twisting your body, your thoughts, and your fate. When a pack bearer is completely overtaken by their patron demon, they become a fiend.
Yep, no longer a PC, but a vessel of pure malevolence.
Hmm.
I also, again, this is a White Wolf thing. This is fun to read. They're
Yeah.
using terms like malevolence,
Hmm.
corruption, capital
That's
C. It's
that's
lovely.
definite. That's a very Mark thing to do. uh,
Turmoil, philosophy. Like it just, I'm just like scanning, like scan reading this.
yeah,
They have such beautiful, sexy word choice. It's
yeah.
just such a delight to read.
Um, like I can't say it's a fully Mark thing to do because I don't see as many compound words, and he has a bad habit of
Oh
doing
yeah,
that.
you know
And
what though? You know what? I'm getting
mhm.
that same exact habit. You're gonna be reviewing Acid and Steel here before too much longer. You're gonna be like, you did a Reinhage. I'm gonna be like, don't blame me. It happens. What do you want?
uh, but look, we all know how this works. Just because it's not your fault doesn't mean you won't get blamed for it anyways. Ask
Oh, I
anybody who's ever served in the military. Uh,
jeez. Anyway,
but
go on. Let's talk more about
then,
this guy.
yeah, then we have dogmas. Um, dogmas are the great philosophies when it comes to pact bearers. Worldviews that divide, unite, and define the societies of pact bearers everywhere. Factions, but not in the traditional sense, formed by ideologies, way of seeing the pact itself, and the divine war it entangled humanity in. A dogma explains why you fight and what you hope the end will bring. Most pact bearers align with one of these 3. I kind of wish they'd go a bit into what the 3 dogmas are,
Yeah, I feel like
but
this is the place for it. Again, I
uh,
guess we're just looking at a quick start here.
yeah. And of course, gear is self-explanatory. It does provide a
Yeah.
gear bonus, which it means extra dice. Uh, Now, with rolling dice, you're rolling a number of d6s. Um, every
D6 is.
6 is a hit. This
Yeah,
is
that's the one I was thinking about earlier. So this one,
yeah.
the six that you need.
Hmm.
It
Now,
feels so brutal.
well, keep in mind the first entry of the Year Zero system was Mutant Year Zero, which was a post-apocalypse, and a lot of games that lean into Year Zero are definitely not on the forgiving side of things. They can be very lethal, very high consequence,
That's fine.
and
That's
same.
fine. Well, because immediately that gives you a reason to dip into your demonic powers, right?
Hmm.
So that's great. Um,
Yeah, they.
I feel like that's a all the Year Zero games that I've encountered are 3 or 4 session
Yeah,
max games. They're very
and fortunately, to succeed at a roll, you just need at least 1 6. If you roll additional ones, you can get bonus effects known as tricks. Uh,
it's kind of
these.
cool in the demon game that rolling sixes are successes. That's kind of fun.
Hmm. Um, they do have a nice little chance of success of what the odds are to succeed on your own, or if you invoke your patron. Uh, and you can see there's a very significant gap if you invoke your patron with it.
Yeah. So I like that they actually give you the percentages there because what is it, 16.7 repeating of a d6 is kind of awkward. Um, but this sort of gives you an idea. It's like, oh, okay, so this is what it looks like when you actually do the math. I
Though,
love that.
because of my years with XCOM, I have been wired to treat percentage chances with a degree of suspicion.
Oh, I mean, yeah, these aren't super accurate, and a percentage. Okay, so a thing you learn in game design very quickly is that you don't understand on an intuitive level what a percentage is. Like you don't understand on an intuitive level how quantum mechanics works.
Hmm.
It just it does not come naturally to the human mind. So you'll be like, oh, a 75% chance, that's good, and it feels like 75% should hit a lot more than it does, but it doesn't. It hits
Yep.
75% of the time, which means a quarter of your rolls are failures, and you're
Hmm.
not mentally prepared for that because the dramatic weight you put on each roll is a binary. This
Hmm.
must pass or I'm doomed.
Yep. But
So,
invoking your patron is what's commonly known in the Year Zero engine as pushing. I.e., if you fail a roll, meaning you rolled all your dice and you didn't get a single boxcar, you can push. If you do, or if you just want to see if you can get a better success at a risk. In this case, pushing is invoking your patron. You re-roll all the die that did not roll sixes. Uh, you can only do this once per skill roll. Doesn't cost any extra time or any extra action. But of course, you only get one shot with it per skill roll. And in this case, when you do it, you get one profane point, uh, which can be used to fuel blasphemies. But the GM also gets one damnation point that they could use to make your life interesting.
yeah, I like these itemized things they can do too. I love this. I was complaining
Mm-hmm.
about this in the last game. This is what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a nice list that I can grab from in appropriately dramatic moments.
Yep.
Lovely, absolutely lovely. And I'm not being asked to be spontaneously creative right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can just do this. Now, of course, the drawback to having the itemized role like this is that if I do have a more creative thing I want to do, it's not on the list, right? It wouldn't be part of the rules to do that. So
Yeah.
this is where I'm like, you don't want to have a ceiling, you just want to have a low enough floor.
Mm-hmm.
So this would benefit from a little more openness on that end of the design.
But for a quick start, it's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, hundred
Yeah.
percent.
Uh,
Because it's a quick start, right? We're not. You don't have to worry about high skill ceiling in a bloody quick start. This is just tasting the rules, see if you like
mm-hmm.
it. Which
But
you probably will, honestly. I'm looking at this, and this just looks so friendly.
yeah.
Okay, it doesn't. It looks horrible, but for the characters, for
Yeah.
players, this is just lovely.
Mm-hmm. But they do bring up modifiers, which just means if you've got a modifier, you're rolling more dice. Um,
Super, super standard.
the
Fine, whatever.
the diff the fight now they also bring up the chance die. So if your dice pool is in the negatives or it's 0, you can roll one chance die. This is a single d6. If it rolls a 6, you barely succeed, and you cannot invoke your patron rolling a chance die.
Very good.
So you can do it, but you got one shot,
It's not likely.
and
See,
that's all you get with that skill roll.
I don't know. Like, the only problem I have with that, of course, is that it's not really that different from just having a single die, right? It's a little bit different. You succeed barely, but barely is not quantified. You
Mm-hmm.
just can't invoke your patron. So it's basically a normal roll. It's like, oh, it only succeeds on a 6. That's every roll with a
Yeah.
single die, right? They didn't give themselves a lot of wiggle room there. Whereas in Temeraire, if you get a 5 or a 6, so they
Yeah.
could have made that a 6, or they could have made it like if you roll a
Mm-hmm.
1, then something bad happens. Wait, actually, why
Yep.
didn't they do that? The Warped Artist did that. You
Mm-hmm.
tell me you couldn't figure that out, guys? I guess
Uh,
I figured it was brutal enough.
yeah. Of course, you can get help from others, which can give you an opportunity to get 1 to 3 dice. Um, Now, as a general rule, NPCs don't reroll when it comes to invoking patrons, but the GM can spend damnation points to let them reroll.
Okay, so you actually hand the rerolls to the NPCs. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Uh, of course, opposed rolls work the way you'd expect. It's both sides roll separately. Whoever gets more sixes wins the contest. Attackers always win on ties.
I like that. There's a few things this system setup is doing that I really like. I really love offense wins on ties. It means that the game is consistently in motion and you're always in the hot seat. I really like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's got the
Uh,
skills broken down here too. This is lovely.
mm-hmm. Yep, and
Oh, look
each
at that.
skill has its own set of tricks.
Oh, look at
Remember,
those.
with each of the bullet points when it comes to tricks, these cost one additional success.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, that just gives you so much more to do with these
Mm-hmm.
skills. This is just nice.
Yeah. Um, unless it says so, you can't use a trick more than once on on a single check. Though, given the very restrained die pools, it's not I don't it's not very likely that you're going to get a whole lot of sixes unless you have that 14 karat horseshoe suck up where the sun don't shine.
Oh, I like the way they set up sneak. I was
Mhm.
initially going to ding them for it because it's when you're doing group stealth, you just
Mhm.
roll the lowest.
Yep.
But you actually can roll and then give your successes to the other players with sneak. That's one
Yep.
of the tricks you can do. So if you are the sneak guy, you could actually lead.
Hmm. Which is a very nice touch.
That's
Um,
good. Yeah. Yeah. I
I do
really do
like that
think,
they make clear that manipulate is not mind control. Um,
yeah, that's nice. People, uh, yeah, when it comes to social skills, I think people get to this point where like they're like, oh, I made my role, so he has to do what I say, and it's like, well, not exactly.
mhm.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're trying to convince them to do something.
mhm.
Yeah, that's nice. And it's simple too. Again, for a quick start, they're covering a lot of pretty uh, tough ground with social mechanics in a very concise way. Again, a lot of this is received wisdom. We've been doing this for a long time as role playing game designers, but it's still
Mhm.
nice to see it in print.
Yeah.
Right here where you can easily access it. I love it.
Mhm. But when it comes to combat, much like other Year Zero games, it is resolved on zones.
Yep.
The
That makes
size of
sense.
a zone can be a few steps to 25 meters, depends on circumstance. Uh, a zone, a set of zones can be done by a quick sketch by the GM, or it might have zones already set up if you're doing a prepared scenario. Uh,
Yeah, which if they've got zones set up, depending on how strict they get with it, I don't see the difference between that and just a hex map, right?
uh,
Because like if you've got a map, just put hexes on it. You don't have to worry about zones. They're for the theater of the mind
yeah.
level play.
The main difference between like a standard grid and zones is it's not one character per zone.
Yeah,
Uh,
so you can have multiple people in like a swirling melee in a given zone, and then some
yeah.
other person in an adjacent zone taking pot shots into it.
Hmm.
Sure, and I don't
Yep.
really have a problem with that. It's a fine abstraction. I like zones for theater of the mind play because they're a pretty good. They're a reasonable compromise between being able to just say whatever happens whenever and wherever, and
Hmm.
having something a little more structured that you can use to say, well, you've got to move to get over there, or he's too far away to see, or whatever. It's fine. It's zones are ancient design
Yeah.
at this point. They've been around again since what fudge. It's forever. So
Hmm.
they're if you like them, they work the exact same way in this game,
Yeah.
right?
But with initiative is determined the way you would think it is. Um,
Yep.
you can't reroll initiative during combat, but some things might give you bonuses to it. Um,
I like the roll every round style personally, but it's not really necessary.
mhm.
I like the idea that the surprise die gives you +2 to your score only on the first round of combat. So
hmm
if you roll like crap, even if you've surprised them, they're still faster than you.
Yep.
There's something kind of charming about that.
Yep. When it comes to the action economy, you can take either one slow action and one fast action, or two fast actions.
Hmm.
Uh, Fast actions would be like minor actions, or the things that may not require a roll, and free actions you can take as many as need be. Uh, and so slow actions would be things like a melee attack or a ranged attack. Um, Most of the attack side of things would be slow actions. Putting first aid on someone, doing a reload. Fast actions might be blocking an attack, doing a grapple, taking Overwatch, doing an aim. Uh, and free actions would be things like using armor against an attack, or uh, defending an opposed roll. Uh, though there is a bit
I
of
love it.
there's a bit of an editing error with describe your actions, because it says some actions give the enemy the opportunity to perform a, then there's nothing there.
Perform a something. Yeah, it sounds. It
Uh,
looks like something just got eaten by the layout of the tables here.
hmm
Um, that doesn't cleanly carry anywhere else. So,
yeah.
and that's. I mean, that's fine. But they should probably edit that again.
hmm
It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Just fix it, guys.
Then go
A lot of received wisdom from third edition here.
Yeah, then going into things like movement, which works the way you'd expect.
Just like you'd
Then
expect. I like that doors get called out.
mhm,
I like that. I like that because I feel like it means you're gonna think about that. It's gonna be top of mind as a GM whenever you're putting things together. Like there's a door in the way. He's trying to push it from the other side.
mhm.
You don't know what's on the other side of this door. There's so much drama in opening a door. Resident Evil knew that. And I like that they thought
If you
enough about their game to like, you know what? They're gonna want to think about
if you
doors.
want some that really understands the drama of opening a door, Space Hulk is, yeah, you can destroy that door, but because of how how you're always dealing with gene stealers, sometimes you might want to block it, and sometimes not.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
and
Again, it's such a little thing,
mhm,
doors, and yet there it is, right there,
yep.
drawing your attention to it, making you think about it, giving you this delicious, crunchy, chewy texture.
hmm
I love it. Ugh,
But when it
okay,
comes to
I got a little more gas in the tank, Mel.
yeah,
Just a little bit.
yep. When it comes to close combat, you're either going to use melee combat or force. Um, you always If it's successful, you deal damage equal to the weapon's base damage rating. Damage can be reduced by armor. You can also choose to try and block. Blocking is is a fast action. Uh,
Yes, it'll
and
take your fast action, but
mhm,
it's pretty chunky. Like I might actually consistently try doing blocking because there's some cool stuff it gives you.
yep.
It's
You
actually
can
it gives the defender who hasn't acted yet really something to do.
yep.
Especially if you're getting attacked by more than one character. If you could reliably block them, you could actually whoop a lot of ass.
So
That's kind of rad.
uh, you have to declare that you're going to block before the attacker rolls. For each success that you roll, you
Yeah.
can decrease damage. So just take out one of their successes. Um, Counterattack. You cannot spend additional successes to increase damage on counterattacks.
It's still good though.
Disarm or knock them to the ground. Uh,
Yeah, man, that's rad.
mhm.
Blocking rules.
Yep. If you're unarmed, you can only block unarmed attacks, so that those would be attacks using the force skill. The rule of thumb is melee combat is when you're using a melee weapon. Force is when you're using your body.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Uh, then we do have a very simple setup for grappling, which is an opposed force roll. Shoving, which is also force.
Oh, they
You
have
oh,
Overwatch too. Look at this.
mm-hmm. Yep,
Oh, that's cool.
Overwatch as well as full auto fire.
Wow, that's really nifty. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this combat system. Like it's simple,
Mm-hmm.
but like there's so many options and strategic considerations. This is wonderfully crunchy.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is yum. This is yummy, Mildred. I like
Mm-hmm.
this. I'm a
Now,
sucker. You know, me, I'm a sucker for a good combat system.
yeah. Now, damage can take the form of either just straight up damage or stress.
Yeah.
One drains health, the other drains resolve. Uh, and range fire can actually inflict stress damage because, well, if you're getting shot at, it's definitely a stressful situation.
That's great. That's really
Uh,
great.
if you are in that situation, you would make an insight roll. This isn't an action. Each success takes 1 point away from the potential stress you might deal with. You can invoke your patron.
I mean, I'd be praying in that scenario. So,
Mm. So,
oh,
being
even looking at
threatened,
a Nephilim gives you stress. Look at that. That's rad.
or witnessing a pack bearer surrender to their patron, becoming a fiend, has 3 stress, which, considering how the cap for this sort of thing is going to be like 8, 3 stress is pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's a big chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Again, though, this reminds me of Call of Cthulhu really strongly, where there's certain things that are just like you really want to avoid. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. Uh,
Yep.
Again, this section is by far my favorite so far. This gives me so many reasons to try this game out. Really selling me on it.
But
And
if
also,
you,
like, here's another good example to counterpoint what I was saying earlier with broken. When your resolve drops to 0, you just gonna go insane. I love that,
mm-hmm.
right? It's not forcing me to role play in a particular way. It's just breaking my mind in a way that's immediately intuitive to me. So
Yep.
I have no problem with that, right? I don't have to
Yeah.
care if a character dies. I just care if I suddenly can't choose what they do next.
Now, broken doesn't automatically mean you're dead. You can come back. The only thing that can full on kill you is critical injuries. And you
Oh my god, look at all these
now
great
with
nifty.
critical injuries, if you when your health is reduced to 0 and you take an injury and you take a injury either physical or mental when either of those resources is at 0, uh, you would roll a d66 and it would tell
Yep.
you the injury,
Oh,
whether or not
holy
it's
cow.
lethal, how long it takes to recover from it, what the effects are, and the amount of healing time. If there
Yes,
is healing time, there's a few that are permanent.
this reminds me of the Warhammer RPG. This is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game, and I imagine this one is going to be similar, where you spend a lot of time crawling around, bleeding. Like my memories of playing Warhammer are a lot of crawling and bleeding, and it's so much fun. Like you roll on this giant D66 table, and you're like, oh god, please let me be sullen and not catatonic.
Yep.
It's just so
Oh,
good.
there's also a table for traumas for mental critical injuries,
Mm.
and there can be other hazards like being set on fire.
Yep. Yeah, I like
uh,
the they knew immediately that I was gonna burn stuff. Yeah,
mhm.
and they've got darkness and fire as they do. They call out, and you know what? Good on you, boys. You knew exactly what was gonna be in your game.
Yep. Uh, then they go into weapons and armor. Weapons can have certain features. Grip is basically, versatile. You can either do it one or two handed. Bonus is how many bonus die it gets. A weapon can get damaged, and if that happens, it loses more and more of its bonus die. Damage is of course the base damage rating of it. Range, self-explanatory. Special is any special rules that weapons have. Uh,
Nice crunchy set of stuff there.
mhm.
Melee
And
weapons: rusted pipe, heavy wrench, meat
mhm.
hook, Cleaver. I love how much they're conveying not only the setting but what you're going to be doing in it with the choice of weapons they're statting out. That's mwah.
Yep.
Like what a wonderfully characterful way of doing that.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to armor, armors have a armor rating, which is the dice pool that you roll when you're trying to reduce damage. Each hit on an armor roll cancels out one success from an attack roll.
That's kind of cool. A very active way of defending your character.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because it feels like it's a combination of using the armor and the armor's inherent, like, resistance to damage. It doesn't just feel like, oh, I'm just subtracting it. Like it's this automatic thing. Because that makes armor feel kind of static. This makes it feel more active, which makes combat feel more dynamic in play. Of course, you got to be careful that you're not having people constantly roll and roll and roll and roll. But I don't think this is asking too much of people.
And it's not like you're rolling Shadowrun pools of dice.
Well, you're not even rolling White Wolf levels of dice with this one, right? Remember, you had to do the soak pools back then. My lord. So, no, this is acceptable levels of dice rolling.
Mm-hmm. It's going a bit into the era of the Last Seal, which is the setting, their equivalent of the modern Knights, if we're going to keep invoking World of Darkness.
We are. This is such a World of Darkness game.
And this is where we have what I was asking for earlier, but here it is in full detail. The three main dogmas: the apostates, the Lilithians, and the penitents. The apostates are described as loyal. They are loyal to the first truth that ever burned in creation. Compassion for the unworthy is the root of all ruin. The Lilithians, they are not prophets. They're not saints. They are the resistance. Lilithians are pact bearers who turn their defiance into strategy. Mortals who saw through the line of divine order and chose to fight back. Maybe it's just me, but I know we keep bringing up World of Darkness, but I feel like I should also bring up Cult.
Cult's a good one too. I think World of Darkness is a more common touchstone, but yeah, Cult is a really good one to be referencing here.
Mm-hmm. And penitents are described as they're not beggars of redemption; they are damned who refuse to stay damned. And then it does go into the whole thing with the patron. As well as the pact. Obviously, the demon that is whispering to you has its own agenda. Though they do make clear pacts do not represent different breeds of demons that happen to strike bargains. Instead, they reflect the reason a human was chosen to sell their soul in the first place and the kind of desire they tried to satisfy with that bargain.
Yeah, it's more about your psychology than the demon's psychology, which is probably for the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think whenever you're tasked with role-playing a demon in one of these systems, it's really... like, you really should be going screw tape letters with it. You should be doing something that doesn't feel human, right? Because that gives it enough alienness that it reminds you that you're not dealing with another person who's got one over on you. You're dealing with some truly malevolent thing. So yeah, I like that. I like that these are about the human relationship to this kind of anti-divine.
Mm-hmm. But then we have the 5 A's of the pentagram, so essentially the 5 types of pacts. So the path of the uncrowned, the pact of the withered, the pact of the hollowed, the pact of the unanswered, and the pact of the scorched. So I'd say this would be the close equivalent to the things like the vampire clans or the like.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
And they do
editing error here. The out of the pack of the scorched, the little blood spatter is obscuring the words instead of underlining them.
Mm-hmm. And they go into the whole nature of crossing the line as well as fiends mentioned, and it's it's already been made clear. A fiend is when you've been using the gifts that you got from the pact, and now it's time to pay the piper. Oh,
Well, yeah, this is whenever you've totally lost.
mm-hmm. And I'd say if I was to use the vampire example, this would be a vampire who has completely succumbed to the beast, who has no humanity left.
Yeah.
Uh, but but
Yeah, these guys are truly beyond redemption, and basically they seem like they're just demons in mortal skin at this point,
mm-hmm,
which fine by me. I always was kind of curious how you would play a humanity zero vampire even as an NPC, because it's
mm-hmm.
not super, like, sometimes they're ravening monsters, but sometimes they're just completely like detached sociopaths, and like, I don't know, it's sort of unclear. This gives you something a little more
Yeah,
concrete to grab onto. Like, no, you're just an NPC bad guy at this point.
and
There's no more.
we do kind of have that answered in the section mass and infiltration.
Yep.
The fiends don't have an outward mark, so unless they're displaying their power, there's it's difficult to say if someone is a fiend just looking at them.
Mm. Again, read the screw tape letters, folks. It's a
Mm-hmm.
good bit of writing.
Uh, and when it comes to the blasphemies, that is how the pact manifests. These are your powers. There is the core blasphemy. This is what you get for take. This is the first thing you get for taking the pact. Uh, and manifest ones, which are additional expressions of influence. The core of blasphemy can evolve into different tiers. Manifest ones do not. They're taken once and operate similar to talents.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to invoking a blasphemy, uh, each one has a power level which determines the potency of the effect. The base power level is the lowest that it can do, and your base power level is determined by your current corruption score. So the higher corruption score, the baseline that you can do without needing to push it. Uh, you can increase that base power level by spending profane points, and you can never fail at invoking a blasphemy. It's more of it's more of degree of effect. Uh, if you now if you roll one success or more, the blasphemy surges, and if you roll one or more banes, a breach occurs. You cannot invoke your patron on a invocation.
Well, yeah, because they're already putting their power
No,
behind what you're doing.
yeah. Now with a surge, this means that the power level goes up by one. Uh, so if you invoke a blasphemy that has a base power level of 3 and you get 2 successes, it becomes 5. If you roll one or more banes, you fail to fully control the channel between you and your patron. The blasphemy takes effect, but its power is beyond your control. This is a breach. You
Yeah,
suffer
this is
a
a great point of drama for this system. Like
mm-hmm,
they've got enough crunch that it feels significant when you're invoking them, and
mm-hmm,
then you can just, I mean, these things are boiling with
yeah.
dramatic potential.
Yeah, you can't fail at the roll, but that doesn't mean there aren't consequences.
Yes, that doesn't mean you've succeeded in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
We got some cool examples too.
mm-hmm. And normally people can't resist blasphemies, but pact bearers and supernatural entities can. This is usually
Yes.
a endure insight check.
Yeah, and I like that. That simple binary gives you the ability to make
Mm-hmm.
certain combats just more important because they feel different, right?
Yep.
Lovely stuff. We've been doing that since D&D, where you can only hit ghosts with +1 weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. and it worked in Vampire too. Vampires have like this whole other dimension of resistance that mortals don't have, and it means that targeting them feels very different in play. So yeah,
Hmm.
I love that kind of design. Simple stuff, but it has great effects in play. And honestly, like I think we're about where the adventure starts here, aren't we?
We're close. The next thing they're covering is just the examples of core blasphemies. The first one
Oh
that
yeah,
they have is the blasphemy of authority, which you get for Pact of the Uncrowned. Uh, I'd say if you played Ventru, you're going to be right at home with this.
oh yeah, yeah. This is very Ventru.
uh, Remember, Clan Ventru ruling the world, so you don't have to.
So you don't have to.
But you can, but you can basically use this as a opposed role for a Clash of Wills at Tier 1. Um, Tier 2, that's where you can start commanding people. Just moving them even if they don't want to move. Um, and then they're not going through all 5 tiers. And each one has the type of action that it does, the saving throw, so this is the skill that could be used to resist it, the
Yeah,
range, the duration. The enhanced
God,
effect
I
is meant, I'd say, meant to be the power level that we talked about before, and what happens if you go above it.
Yep, and
Um,
can I just say I love the layout of these
mhm,
powers. They're so beautiful. They just have, here's this category of effect.
mhm,
Here's what it does. You know, enhanced effect, boom, action, boom, saving throw, boom, range, boom. That's such beautiful design. It's
yep,
so gorgeous on the page, and it plays so wonderfully when you're actually running with
mhm,
these powers. So
yep.
great stuff there, guys.
The Blasphemy of Wrath is for the Path of the Scorched. Um, it turns the pack bearer into an instrument of destruction, so Gangrel?
And Bruja is what I would go with, but yeah.
Yeah, Bruja's definitely a better fit. Uh, and
Oh, I
Blasphemy
will,
of
Brian. That's what I was
Resilience.
saying.
People who have it have bodies that endure when others wouldn't. Um, Nosferatu, maybe?
Um, yeah, Nosferatu. Nos were really tanks.
Hmm.
Gangrel were tanks too, but yeah,
Yeah.
Nos.
The
I was gonna say Zamisi, but
yeah.
those are kind of a little off the beaten path.
Blasphemy of Truth, which is about discerning omens, reading minds, so basically being a borderline psychic.
Yeah.
Um, say, I don't think there's I don't
Well,
think there's a direct
the
parallel.
Malkavians do that, but the
Yeah,
Malkavians are also real crazy.
yeah. Um,
It's been a while since you played WAD, my friend.
yes, it
Oh god,
has.
yeah, I can
Um,
tell.
yes, it has. It's complicated, but
It's okay.
the Blasphemous
It's
Temptation is tied to the Pact of the Hallowed, or they're described as irresistibly charming. Their presence alters the perception of those around them. Uh, they're accepted even when they shouldn't. This is your dip. This is the one you pick for the group Diplomancer.
yep. So
Um,
I'm gonna cast diplomacy.
mhm. I'd say this one could probably also fit the Bruja.
Yeah. Oh well, the Bruja are an interesting blend because like they didn't start out as brutes, but they kind of degenerated into them.
Hmm.
So you have this like interesting like social philosophical streak to them that slowly gets consumed in this like inarticulate violent fury. They're kind of like the whole collapse of Rome in one dude. It's kind of fun.
Hmm. But the rest of it is going into the Trials of Chains. I kind of wish they added at least one additional blasphemy instead of just covering the core ones, but it is what it
Yeah,
is. Um,
yeah, it is what it is. They can get a quick start.
yeah, because then it goes into tri Trials of Chains and the setup there. This is another case where the pre-gens were in a separate PDF, but each one's about one or so is not that lengthy when it comes to page count, because Year Zero isn't one where you really need a large character sheet.
Yeah, the system doesn't lend itself to that kind of level of crunch, but that's fine. It's designed for this more short term approach, and
Hmm.
it's all high impact stuff. All the choices are really like clear, and the stakes are clear, and the drama is going to be constant with this. Just from playing the game, you're just going to constantly be hit with choice after agonizing choice after horrible consequence. Like this is beautiful. This is an engine designed to bring you pain, and it's
Hmm.
extraordinarily well designed. I love it.
Yep. Um, they're each of I will note each of the pregens has one talent that they have access to, and only one black, and some and only like about two blasphemies in some cases. Um,
Okay.
though the though I'm not, I realize why they have the text the way they do for the character sheets. I'm just not a fan of it because it is a little bit hard to read. They're trying to do the whole written in blood kind of thing with the pre-gen character sheets,
Oh yeah.
which I. But with that said, PACT I'd say is a very damn good setup here. I know we invoked World of Darkness and Cult, but it does have enough there to establish its own identity, especially in the sense that you're already by taking the deal, you're already kind of screwed. It's just how long can you stave off the Pied Piper, as it were.
Yeah, and again, that's a very World of Darkness thing where it's kind of before character like the play even starts, you're kind of doomed, you know.
Uh,
But that's fine.
mm-hmm,
Knowing that you're doomed means that like you kind of relish every moment that your character is not getting turned into a monster or dying. Um, and with the whole you play on the ground bleeding approach this system has, um, I uh, I think this is gonna be a bloody good time. I feel like you're gonna
mm-hmm,
have some hellacious gaming with this one.
yeah.
It probably won't last very long, but while it lasts, it will be brutal and fun.
Mm-hmm. Uh, like the only nitpick I have with the quick start is I kind of wish there was at least one example of additional blasphemies instead of just the core ones. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I like the core ones a lot. It's just don't tease me with the idea of additional blasphemies and then not deliver for me. Give me at least one. And I can see this having its particular style. And outside of that little nitpick, I can't really think of too much in the way of issues. Both of these games are very good for the type of playstyle that they're trying to encourage. And that's really all you can ask for in these kind of things.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think ultimately, you both of these games have the redeeming quality that they have a really clear idea, like of what they want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and their mechanics do seem to support it, right? Um,
Yeah.
they clearly put a lot of thought. And again, I complained a little bit about received wisdom with these, but I don't really think that's such a complaint if the ultimate product creates the experience you want. And I've seen enough games that these seem like they're going to give you what you want out of them whenever you play these systems. I think these are both pretty strong contenders. They both have very clear identities.
Mm-hmm.
They both seem to have a lot of competence in how they're designing their game to bring it forth. Um, they're neither of them are particularly novel. I think is my only real complaint with them. That this is not design that's breaking any significantly new ground. So you sort of have to ask yourself when you see that, like, does this system have enough to say for itself that I couldn't just use another similar system? And I think that's if I had one really significant play with both of them, that would be it. Like I've nitpicked here and there, but the most significant complaint I have is that I don't know that like because I've come from an era where there's all kinds of different, really radically different styles of game you can choose, and I'm not seeing a lot here that's so bold that I'm like, wow, this is breathtaking. There's a few things, but for the most part,
That
these are
has a double-edged sword though,
it
because
does because you know for every really brilliant new thing, there's something that just makes you roll your eyes. Like, why
and
would you ever do this?
I have seen I have seen people try to force certain gameplay styles into systems that while they may be familiar with that system, the amount of extra work that they put themselves through ends up being juice that's not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, and that's another thing you got to kind of look out for. Again, though, I'm just rolling these around in my head, like, well,
Mhm.
what's good, what's bad.
Yeah,
I don't really think there's anything bad in these, but just it's a sort of conservative design. You know, they didn't do anything that was particularly new and noteworthy. But
in the case of
that isn't
PACT, it does have to operate in the confines of the Year Zero engine.
right. And for that, I think it has a lot to say for itself, right?
Hmm.
You know, it's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah. So that is going to do it for the coverage of these two games, and I am glad to see that they're both doing pretty well on Kickstarter. Uh, when we come back here next week, we will be delving into what's going to be Joel's first season with the Valley,
I'm looking
co-
forward to it.
covering Night and Avalon RPG, which I delved into the quick start during when it was on BackerKit. Um, this is going to be one case of something you're going to see a lot, which is seeing the global perspective of tabletop, because um, Pact, which we already covered, was made in Greece, and Night comes from uh, Spain.
Hmm.
Uh, that actually what it was either no, it wasn't Spain, it was France. Which
Ooh, a French one.
France does have a very vibrant and very diverse TTRPG space. And when it comes to Night, it is, I guess the best way to describe it is the kind of thing that Hellgate London probably should have been. Uh, in the sense of fighting in this post-apocalypse with this magically empowered tech armor.
Ooh.
Just one where you're dealing with a UK that's been overrun by um, demons and worse, and you are playing as people who have been rescued by essentially this new Avalon.
Hmm.
Uh, but the big thing about it is the power armor known as meta armor, and all of the meta armors are nods to fantasy character classes.
Hmm. Well, that's kind of fun.
So, but there, even though it is a post-apocalypse, there's a very strong theme of what's referred to in the book as hope and heroism.
Yeah, I think it's important when you're in a kind of a grim setting like that to make sure that you're not just ramming the player's face into failure and misery. Like
Hmm.
the suffering, if it doesn't have a purpose, feels just kind
Yeah.
of sadistic. So I'm glad they're making certain that when they're designing, they've got that in the forefront of their minds. That's probably
Yeah.
healthy.
So that's what we've got to look forward to for next week.
Yeah,
So
and
keep
I'll
an eye out
actually
for
be
that.
awake for all of those. Those are going to be fantastic. It
Yep.
was a busy day today.
Hmm.
I'm an EB old man.
Yeah.
Um, but I had a lot of fun this time, Mildred. I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to this season a lot.
Oh yeah.
Um, gonna be kind
And
of a cozy stream, you and me this time.
hmm yep. So keep an eye out for that. And as Yoshi P often says, please look forward to it. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.